dissecting ZK, zero knowledge, which is probably a term that you have heard about in the past couple months, especially in the context of privacy, but also maybe in the context of scalability. And in my view, ZK is going to have its own season. It's going to be its own narrative, similar to how we have modularity or restaking. And that's why in today's video, I'm going to give you a full breakdown of the different types of zero knowledge proofs. And we've been working on this video in collaboration with our Mina partners at Aleph Zero, but we're also going to be looking into a lot of other projects that are active in both the ZK privacy and the ZK scalability fields. Let's start one by one. First, understand what zero knowledge proofs actually are. A zero knowledge proof is a cryptographic technique that allows you to convince somebody that a statement is true without revealing any further information. The best analogy I can give you here is that if you imagine, for example, that you want to enter a bar or a nightclub and you have to prove to the security guard in the entry that you are over 18 years old, but you don't want to give away any further personal information, such as your full name, for example, or your place of birth. Traditionally, what you do, you show your ID, you show your ID card, which reveals all this information, including your address, your nationality, and all these kind of things. But in a place or in a world where we would have a ZK standard, you could verify and you could basically convince the security guard, you can prove that you are over 18 years old without giving away all these other information. And this is actually also one of the use cases. ZK-based identification, Polygon and Aleph Zero currently have this in production. And this is basically a technology that allows you to verify information based on that ID without having to give away unrelated, sensitive information. Now, if we talk about zero knowledge privacy, we basically have to separate two types of ZK proofs. One of them is called ZK snarks, which you might also have heard from Vitalik. He's actually been talking about this a lot over the years. And ZK snark actually stands for zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive argument of knowledge. Let's dissect this briefly into each single element. Succinct basically means that the proofs are very small and easy to verify, and non-interactive means no back and forth communication between the prover and the verifier, which means that based on that ZK-based piece of information, we can really be 100% sure that this information is correct. Argument means formalism when talking about these proofs, and knowledge means the provers have the evidence themselves. Benefits of ZK snarks is that they don't leak information. It's small in size, which means it's easy to verify even if the thing being proven is complicated. They also don't require any back and forth communication, and it's also more gas efficient than using the so-called hashing function method, which is used by the second category called ZK starks. ZK starks stands for zero knowledge, scalable, transparency argument of knowledge. It's a different type of cryptography to ZK snarks, but it's also quantum resistant. Unlike snark, Stark does not require a trusted setup to verify the proof. The drawback or the comparison, however, to snarks is that Starks can only handle certain kinds of computations, and the proof sizes are larger than ZK snarks, which means it's not only more time intensive, but also gas intensive, which means it's more expensive and slower to implement. Now let's look into the two main use cases for ZK proofs or zero knowledge technology. The first one being increased scalability. Zero knowledge proofs are basically lighter data sets, which means they can process a lot faster compared to if you had the entire data set that needed to be verified. The second use case is actually privacy by reducing the amount of information that is shared between parties. Examples for this could be digital identity verification, privacy preserving transactions, shielded transactions, tokenization, and ownership verification. If we go deeper into the privacy segment, which is something that I personally also really believe in and I've been sharing here on this channel over the past months and years, is that privacy is one of the core principles of Web3, right? It's one of the core principles that the whole crypto and Web3 movement is all about. But it can also be one of the biggest drawbacks. Nobody wants all of their information online and public all the time, from personal financial transactions or assets that you're holding. But also, if you think about businesses, right, or enterprise or institutions, right, if you think about their balance sheets and also their company secrets that they don't want to give away, right? If you really believe in an on-chain future, there needs to be a certain degree and level of privacy as a standard, right? When it comes to our personal finances, but also if you are a company or a business, because in the end of the day, it's also about competition, right? It's also about competition and also just about privacy being a basic human right. And it seems to me that ZK proves actually one of the core technological innovations in the privacy space that, in my view, have the potential also to launch a new generation, a new wave for privacy coins and privacy projects that will actually have a lot more of an impact than the privacy projects that we've seen to date. And we can actually name some of these projects. For example, Penumbra, Aleo, and Namada, all of which are currently on testnet. I think that Namada is actually the closest one that is about to launch mainnet. Then we also have Aleph Zero, of course, which is already in mainnet and is also the only one that is currently working on compliant privacy, which means that you can also turn the privacy mode on after doing KYC. And you might say now, this sounds super conflicting and it doesn't really sound crypto-like, but also think of what I just said about businesses and institutions. They really want and have to be compliant based on the jurisdiction they're in. They still want to maintain a level of privacy for their internal company strategies, for their balance sheets, for their client base, and all these kind of things, right? All of the projects I just mentioned employ ZK snarks for their privacy features. And on top of that, Aleph Zero also implements MPC, which stands for multi-party computation for applications that require the highest level of privacy. And in addition, Aleph Zero also employs a hub and spoke model, which allows for more sovereignty and customizability, which also allows businesses to have a spoke or basically a private instance that interacts with the main decentralized ledger. Some of the applications I already mentioned, but to summarize, secure identity management is a big one. Imagine logging into an e-commerce site and making a purchase without the site ever knowing your actual credentials. You're verified, but your personal data stays with you. Financial privacy. Imagine your wallet is your bank account. Nobody can view it without your permission. And also, if you think about other fields such as healthcare, data security, machine learning, model training with encrypted data, and so on and so forth. So Aleo, Penumbra, Aleph Zero, and also Namada, most of which are actually also Cosmos native, or at least in this multi-chain spirit, which is also something that Aleph Zero is doing. These are really the key projects in that field. Now let's talk about ZK proofs for scalability. There's basically 4 main players in that field in the top 100 based on market cap, and 3 of them are actually Ethereum layer 2s, Polygon, Starknet, and Immutable. And as a standalone blockchain, a standalone layer 1 blockchain, we also have Mina Protocol. If we stick with Ethereum for a moment, we can really see that ZK is being used as a scalability solution, because what it actually does, it moves the computation and state storage off chain. And this is also referred to as ZK rollups, Ethereum ZK rollups, that can process thousands of transactions in a batch and then only post a minimal summary of that to Ethereum. That's in the end of the day what Ethereum ZK rollups are doing in a nutshell. And by squeezing many transactions into one, the fees and computing power are shared amongst hundreds of thousands of users, which solves congestion with a higher output of transactions and also reduces gas fees and transaction cost. And you can also see that visualized here by Polygon's ZK EVM batches and token transaction flow. The biggest and most prominent ZK rollup is of course Polygon, which is a scaling solution for Ethereum, and the Polygon ZK EVM is Polygon's ZK rollup on Ethereum, whereas the Polygon ZDK enables developers to build their own ZK layer 2, which is basically a developer kit for builders to employ their own L2. Immutable is another ZK rollup that is optimized for the gaming sector, and they basically deploy 2 solutions. One of them is Immutable's ZK EVM, which is powered by Polygon and supports smart contracts, and then Immutable X, which is powered by Starkware, which does not support smart contracts. Then the third one, we have Starknet. Starknet is actually developed by Starkware. So Starkware is a team behind Starknet. And the differentiator here is that Starknet uses ZK Starks, of course, instead of ZK Snarks, which is something that most of the other solutions are using. Others also worthy to mention here, we have ZK Zinc. ZK Zinc is a ZK rollup with EVM support that is soon going to launch the ZK stack, similar to the Polygon CDK, but developed by ZK Zinc. Then we also have Manta Network, which is the largest and first modular L2 that is using the Polygon ZDK and also uses Celestia for data availability. And lastly, we also have Mina Protocol. Mina Protocol is also a chain that's been live now for a couple of years on mainnet and is a ZK native layer 1 blockchain. So it's basically a standalone sovereign blockchain in itself, building the privacy and security layer for Web3 with ZK proofs. The sales pitch is basically that most blockchains are increasing in size over time. For example, on the Bitcoin chain, if you want to verify the entire chain, you basically have to download the entire blockchain dataset to do that, which is currently 400 gigabytes. But Mina uses zero-knowledge proofs to keep its blockchain at a fixed size of 22 kilobytes, which means participants will be able to fully verify the network and transactions from any device. They capture the state of the entire blockchain as a lightweight snapshot using ZK snarks to send that around instead of the chain itself. Note that ZK applications and the EVM bridge on Mina Protocol are still in development. So I really hope you learned something from this video. I actually learned a lot preparing for this video and shooting this video. So I think this even helped me to better understand what ZK is all about. And also the fact that ZK is such a broad term that also includes scalability, but also privacy, right? So the fact that it covers both might increase the chances that we're actually going to see a proper ZK season, similar to how we've seen a modularity season or a restaking season, because there's actually a lot of innovative projects that are lined up that are going to launch or that are already in production, right? For example, Polygon, I mentioned it is an $8.4 billion market cap right now. Then we have Mina Protocol, which is a $1.1 billion market cap right now. And you have Aleph Zero, which is a bit of a lower cap coin, $300 million fully diluted. But I think it's interesting to see that this space is already at a multi-billion-dollar valuation. And I think it's going to grow and go up only. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about ZK privacy. Do you think it's overrated, underrated, fairly rated? What are your thoughts? What are comments? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay safe and be good.